So what brings one all in all to be Lomi Mikol Adam, right? So we pointed out, we shared, and we established it's not a Bein Adam Lechavero. It's not about giving people a good feeling. But of course, when you do, it's a nice byproduct, but that's not the point. The idea, according to Rabbeinu Yonah at least, was that it shows how much you're desirous of Chachma. Someone who's so desirous of Chachma, who's who wants to learn from everybody, because he's desirous of Chacham. And that's really the definition of a Chacham, which was really, I want to point out something you say, and we say things, and it's always, to understand these, you have to be omid on them. You have to reflect on them. Omid means to stand on it. What does it mean to stand on it? Like, what's this really saying? Wow, that's really novel. That's not how what I thought a Chacham was. I thought a Chacham was someone who gets a Nobel Prize. I thought Chacham was someone who's called a Chacham. Maybe Chacham is someone who's a posek. He's a Chacham, right? Talmud Chacham. So those are all those things, particularly the Torah ones, aren't necessarily incorrect, but that's not what we're saying here. What we're learning about Chachma here is the drive for wisdom. And that's what we're working on in the last few weeks, learning from people far from you, learning from people closer to you. So I wasn't planning to do this, but I got one of the feedback I got, and please to keep sending feedback. This is so Gavaldi. I had to share this. I wasn't going to do this. So so listen to this. What does it mean to be a Lomi Mikol Adam? Listen, you want to know to be a Lomi Mikol Adam? Here it is. I'm not going to say the person's name. For this Kabbalah, it was pretty straightforward. For those close to me, I decided to interview my wife and 17, 14-year-old daughters. Whoa. Can you tell me a piece of wisdom, idea, life lesson that you might find meaningful, helpful, important, that would be important for people in general to hear? Something that would be important for me specifically to hear. Incredible. Incredible. So I don't think we have to give the answers per se, but that's, although they're nice answers, right? but but incredible. Like, whoa! How about I say, when I do that, I don't think I ever do it stam with a person, but I will do that at a shiva house. I did that twice recently with people. Tell me something that I can learn from your mother, and I heard, you know, very good things, interesting things. Tell me something you can learn from your mother or your father, Loleno, etc. But imagine that interviewing. Psh, I don't, I hadn't even thought of that. Like that's a good way to be Lomi call them. Hi, I assume you have wisdom, and it's a little bit easier with a family member because they won't look at you like you're crazy. But someone, if you did that to someone at the wedding, they probably look at you like you're crazy at first, but then they would probably settle into their role and be like, "Oh, that's great. Someone thinks I have some wisdom to share." So that's a phenomenal approach. Yesher koach. That was really eye-opening and very refreshing. Interview, give me some like, what have you learned? What have you what have you learned? That's a great way to, what's the word? Mind people, pick their brains, like we say, pick their brains. So usually it's when we have a topic or something. You wrote a book. You need an editor. You need feedback, things like that. But really impressive. Um, so I want to share now a different aspect to what the drive can be to be a Lomi Mikol Adam, right? It's not that I want to make people feel good. It is that I recognize the value of Chachma and I want so much Chachma that I'm willing to learn from anybody. But the Alter Mikelm brings out another aspect, which I'll share with the introduction of a story which he didn't say, but I heard it from my Rashiva Psikoshlevsky. And he said that the Balatanya had a mochiach was someone who gave them musr. Like the Gra, it's well known that the Gra would get musr from the Magid. And anybody who wants to see more of that, the Minsker Gadol, in a phenomenal book, one of the greatest Gadol books called the Gadol Minsk. Aaron, you ever read that book? Gadol Minsk? So it's something you should read. It's in Hebrew. I would highly suggest, I think they might have translated, don't read it in English, don't read the translation. The Hebrew is so beautiful. If anybody appreciates Hebrew a little bit, if anybody can handle Hebrew, it's just beautiful the way they spoke to each other. You could cry. Sorry. You could cry from the way they spoke to each other. It's a beautiful book. Excuse me. I turn this off. And, but anyway, so he had a mochiach at the end. He had some yisurim and difficulty. And the person who wrote the book was actually his mochiach. The Gadol Minsk, I just want to say, was a Gadol of the highest proportions. And he was something of a different league, in a league of great Chacham. This is in 1900s, 1920s, 1910s. Someone who spent his whole life learning the Bir Hagra, the Gra's deep comments on Shulchan Aruch, went to him about the questions that he had on Bir Hagra, and he answered them one after the other like it was nothing. And this person commented, Ruach Hagra Chaybo, the spirit of the Holy Vilna Gaon, lives in him. So that's what the Mitzvah Gadol was. Anyway, so he was having difficulties in his Kehillah, and um, so he's learning Chovos Halevavos. Someone who sees has difficulties, he's supposed to be Mefashish B'maisa, he's supposed to do tshuva. He wasn't a Musarnik per se. That's a whole story in its own. Because Rabbi Salanter wanted to turn him into a Musarnik, and he didn't become a Musarnik. He wasn't part of the Musar movement. But even though he had Rabbi Yisrael was around Rabbi Salanter, so to speak, wasn't successful with him in the way Rabbi Salanter wanted to be successful with people and turn them into, help him enliven the Musar movement. So he didn't become a Baal Musar, but he was Musar. He was definitely a big person, of course. And so he's learning it. So the person, his name was Halpern, who wrote the book, asked him, "How's it going? Is it getting you to the Toelis you wanted?" He said, "No, not really." He says, "Why?" He said, "I start learning the Chovos Halevavos like a sefer. He brings a proof, and I say, well, who says it's a raya? Maybe the pasuk means this, maybe the pasuk means that. So at the end of the day, I don't get any musar because it's like if you sit in the shmooze, you take it apart too much, you're not going to get the musar." So then he said, then one of them said, "Oh, maybe, yeah, I think the Marshal had a mochiach." So he said, maybe you have a mochiach, maybe you need a mochiach. This person suggested them. He said, "Oh, that's a good idea. You take the job." And then he writes about the tochacha that he gave them in Gadol. Fascinating. It's a fascinating, and sometimes Mitzvah Gadol agreed with him, sometimes he disagreed with him. Anyway, that was just a little bit of a side note anecdote, but that was basically the way it says in the book. But the Baal Tanya had a mochiach. And listen to this. The Baal Tanya said, the mochiach said to the Baal Tanya, "Look, as I remember, I hope I'm remembering the details. I think I got it right. He says, whatever I know, you know. I mean, there's nothing that Rabbi Balatan or Rabbi Shneur Zalman, there's nothing that I know that you don't know. One, agreed. Two, and there is an enormous amount of things that you know that I don't know. What I know, you know, and there's a world of things that you know that I don't know. But you know what? There's a much bigger world of things that neither of us know. And when you think about all there is to know, so it kind of like disappears the difference between you and me. Even though you know so much more than me, but compared to what is there to be known, it's not that much." And apparently the Balatanya started crying after that. That's how the big people took Musar. To us, it sounds like just like a cute calculation. Oh, the Balatanya said started crying. And by the way, Rav Asher Weiss, one of our great Rabbanim today, who I had, I think I mentioned already that I was at Shabbos at his driver, his morning's driver to Shacharis, Dr. I forget his name, but I mentioned about the 99% with the doctor, dentist, one of the finest dentists in Yerushalayim, apparently. So he told me that Rav Asher said the same thing to one time. He said, "Don't worry, I know more than you, but compared to what there is to know, it's not, I don't know so much more than you." So Rav Asher Weiss maybe knew this story, but he also shared that once about himself with this dentist. With that, we're ready to hear the words of the Alter Mikel. This is the right. Says you're going to learn even from someone who's smaller than you. Va'inyan. Okay, I'm going to read what he says. Ki hachacham hagadol, the great wise man, hayodeh mitalumas chacham avomka, knows that the hidden wisdom and its depth. A great chacham knows the depth. Rabbi said we just came out of Hanukkah, right? We're in Tavis. How much chachma is there in Hanukkah? It's unbelievable. Whole books are written. I think I made this point maybe last week about a little bit, but whole books are written about the chachma of Hanukkah, and now more books are written. Chevron, the rabbis of Chevron Yeshiva. Chevron Yeshiva is one yeshiva. It's a big yeshiva on yeshiva standards. On college standards, it would be a minuscule university. Lahavdil, Elef Abdullas. So there's a Rosh Yeshiva there named David Cohen who wrote a phenomenal, thick sefer on Hanukkah, 500 pages maybe. And now the Mashgiach of the yeshiva wrote another sefer, thick sefer, maybe 500 pages, Bo Banecha, which apparently was supposed to be phenomenal. And I'm sure they're both different. I'm sure they shared Marmakomas, etc. I mean, the two of them, they both are humongous Talmidei Chacham. But what? It's one yeshiva, and they're writing two separate huge books about Hanukkah. Hanukkah's in their Rabbanan. What's the share already? No, and then there's the Pachad Yitzchak Hanukkah, and there's Hasidic Kedushas Levi on Hanukkah is mamish bread and butter for many people, and you have the Slonim on Hanukkah. It's endless. What is it? It's a derabanan. What? What? No. And I'm telling you the little bit I know about Hanukkah. It's endless. Look at the Beis Yosef's question. Hundreds of answers to the Beis Yosef's question. What and the idea of Shmini? What's Shmini all about? The whole idea of Shmini means that Hanukkah is somehow past, and it's connected to Oregonas, and it's 36 candles against the 36 hours that the Oregonas, and a certain Bechina, it's higher than Pesach. It's a Derabanan. It's higher than Passover. What does that mean? In a certain Bechina, it is. Yeah, just like in a certain Bechina, in a certain aspect, Purim is higher than Hanukkah. Purim is higher than Yom Kippur. Come on. Rabbeinu Arizal said that to us. The Yom Kippurim is not a joke. It's not a children's rhyme. It's not something you teach a kid in Gan. It means on a certain level, and I emphasize on a certain level, Purim has something that Yom Kippur doesn't have. Incredible. Yom Kippurim. This day is like Yom Kippur. Now, what? Yeah. And then the Jewish year, the months, the Chadashim, I hope one day maybe I think about it. I don't really know it, but I think it'd be a great book to write. I hopefully get it written before I would know enough to write it. I know my brother has the book written already in Kabbalistic form. But to Mahusa Chadashim, maybe someone wrote it already in English. But every Chodesh is its own avoda. Tavis, you think it's Tavis? Okay, Tavis. Dark outside. Look, it's dark outside. No, no, no. Tavis whole shift until now was Midas Achas, and now it's Midas Adin, and then there's Tiferes to Midas. And I'm talking about, and then that fits in, and that fits in, and that fits in. That Chacham is endless. The Alter Kelm, we're talking in his Torah. I remember Rabbi Fredman, a Rebbe and Reb Tzvi's used to say over from the Alter Kelm that you could spend your whole life learning one Chazal, and I understand. I buy it. I buy it because another aspect to it, another bechina, and another thing that's being megala, and it's you understand on a pashut level, on a drash level. Pshat Ram is drash sod. It's endless. It's incredible. I think it's a proof to the Torah Shemayim because when you see on an intelligent level how it just keeps unfolding and unfolding. You couldn't make these, the expression, you can't make these things up. We say that like a crazy thing, right? You can't make this up. This Chinese guy walked into the store and it came out with an ice pop or something. I don't know, right? You can't make these things up. You couldn't make this up. How could find someone make so much depth if it's just making stuff up? I have no doubt I'm sure they have some parshanut on the Quran Lahavdil in the New Testament, but it's not like this. I have no doubt about it. Not deep and depth and new books, and they're good books. And intelligent people are spending time writing these books and reading these books and putting together these books, and they make sense. You see, Rav David Cohen, what he puts together, this and that, and it's incredible. The psukim, right? So that's just a little bit. So Chacham Gadol knows that, right? The Chacham Gadol understands a little bit of the picture, right? A big person in Shas knows how all the sugyas are connected to each other. And how little do I know of it? How small is my knowledge? That makes him have anivus. Kenemer, Gavas, Geud Adam Tashbileno. This is so interesting. I knew this pasuk, but I always learned to listen carefully, Rabbosai. I always learned it the wrong way. When you have Geos Adam means the greatness of a man is mashpil him. I thought it meant, and I think maybe there is a shot like that, like Lifnei Shever Gaon. When you before the fall is Gaon means like Gaiba. I've seen that shot. So I would have understood that pasuk in Mishlei Chavtes like that. Geos Adam Tashbileno. The Gaiba person's mashpil you. You think you're so high, that's going to bring you down. No, 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 no. Geos Adam, the altar's seeing the pasuk in a Tam Elyon. Geos Adam Tashbileno. When a person understands his chachma, when you're great, then you realize how little you know. Moshe Rabbeinu understood how little he knew. I don't get the Sharon Nun. What do I know? I'm missing the Iker. Incredible. Perish Rome do b'chachma. His great level in chachma, v'yediyah ma'omek chachma tamusa. He tashbilon. That's what's mashmal me. I still don't understand so much. I know the whole Masechta Baal Peh. I know Shas Baal Peh, but I'm still, there's so many questions that are still coming up, and then someone asks me something else I don't know, and then I read the Chazon Ish, like my Rebbe or Blockman, it was a genius. I was a genius. He says to me, he opens up the Chazon Ish, the Chazon Ish is 10 steps ahead of him. That's mashbil you in a good way. You see how big the Chacham is. I know Shas. I'm really smart. I've been learning for years, but then I see there was someone called the Chazon Ish who understood so much more than me. And my tefis is so small compared to his. He's 10 steps ahead. Moshe Feinstein, two big Talmidei Chachamim went to him. Who were they? One was named Zelig Epstein, who was the Rashiv of Shara Torah, one of the Gedolim in America, and his son, Yibolda ben Chaim L'Chaim, Kalman Epstein, was an amazing Talmid Chacham. And they went to speak their Moshe in a sugya. I heard this from a Talmud of Shara Torah, and it's not in the book, I don't believe, or in any book. But they went to speak to Moshe and the sugyas that he hadn't seen for 8 years, and he said he was so far ahead of them. So they didn't just come to Moshe. Let's talk and learning. We're a little mixed up. These two gedolim, a big Rosh Yeshiva of today and a big Rosh Yeshiva last generation went, and they're in the sugya deeply, 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 deep enough to take the train to the other side of town and go speak to Rabbi Feinstein. They go to Rabbi Feinstein, and it's all parush in front of him. It's all spread in front of him. He understands so much deeper. So you realize how little you are. But if you don't know the sugya at all, so you don't know anything. So maybe there's not that much to know. Maybe it's easy. Maybe learning Shas is just daf yomi. You sit 45. What do you mean? Not a big deal to know Shas. You sit 45 minutes a day with Reli Stefanski, and then you're good. You finish, which is a nice accomplishment. I'm not putting it down, but that's not knowing Shas. That's not knowing Shas. That's a good example where you don't know. Since you don't know, you think you don't realize what there is to know. But someone who knows what Shas is and knows what people really know. Now I realize how little I know. Incredible. Now what happens? What's the next step? So that's the step. Geos Adam Tashbileno, the Mila of a man, a person who's truly, now you understand how bad Gaiva is, because you're taking it the wrong way. No, it's supposed to be your knowledge, and your Chachma is supposed to be mashba you. I realize how little I know. There's so much to know. There's such a big world of Chachma. There's so many Chachmas. I want to say something else, just as to take the Chanukah a little bit. We had the menorah. The menorah had seven stands. You know what that was against? It was against the seven Chachmas. The Tzim makes this point. It's such a beautiful point. This thing that's Merumas, that reminds us about Torah Shabbal Peh, reminds us of the seven wisdoms. Because to really understand Torah Shabbal Peh fully, you have to know something about the wisdoms of the world. I know what the seven wisdoms are. I think one is math and one is music. I know what the other ones are, the Sheva Chachmas. But isn't that amazing? There's a remiss to the Sheva Chachmas in our place of Torah Shabbal Peh. Now think about it today. So maybe we should go learn mathematics and music. No, because we're so chasser in knowing anything. But think about it. He's the complete chacham. And of course, the Gra and the Rishon knew Sheva Chachmas. The Gra knew everything, right? The Gra has a book on, I think, trigonometry or something like that is well known. Ayam Shulash. The Gra wrote about these things. The Ramchal wrote plays because they were chacham and kolim. So you think about how little I know. I know Torah, but I don't know that. And if I don't know math, so then I'm going to be chasser in Torah. And if I don't know Torah, I'm going to be chassid Torah. I don't know Mishnah, I'm going to be chassid Torah. I don't know. So we're so lacking. We're so much missing. There's so but it's specifically since we understand something, our understanding gaios adam tashbilenu. Now what happens then? Oh, so when listen carefully, friends. So when a person lives with that truth, b'shuv ein makom etzolud bayosh lomar lo ledat. So I'm not embarrassed to say I don't know because I never know. I always know how little I always know how little I know. So to say I don't know is just part of my whole life. I'm not a chacham, right? And I'm not learning to be called a chacham for sure. I want to know chachma. So I have a big drive. Here he's coming back to Rabbeinu Yonah. I have a tremendous drive for chachma, and I'm not satisfied with all I'm lacking. Right? Just like someone who's really hungry, a little food doesn't do it for him. So I'm hungry for wisdom. So the little I know isn't enough for me. I know there's so much more to learn. I'm so young. There's a story I think Rabbi Litzis used to say it over about someone, one of the Rosh Yeshivas, the bombs were going off, and he went under the table. He says, "Hey, I have so much more Torah to learn. Like, don't take my life yet. I have so much more to know." Adain hu ra'eh v'shavu b'nei atzmo chukasa meruba v'chein shivlus v'ravon b'chachma beva to bayis l'man af mikatan. So Both sides, listen to the depth. The first shlav of what brings us to Lomi Mikol Adam is I want to know wisdom. That's it. I have this tremendous drive. Listen carefully now. I have such a drive to know, so I'll go anywhere. The next step, this next idea, the next big idea in being a Chacham Lomi Mikol Adam is that I recognize how much there is to know, and therefore I recognize how little I know, and therefore it's no big deal for me to learn from anybody. You hear the difference? First one is just the drive itself. Maybe it's like this. Like the first one, just the driver is I want to know, I want to know, I want to know, I want to know. But now there's something that could hold us back from that, which is like it's pasnish. In Yiddish, how do you say passions in English? Aaron, it's not fitting. It's not fitting for me to go ask someone, right? Or I have a little bit of gaiva, right? So I'm not going to go ask someone. Maybe people will think less of me if I'm going and asking, finding if I'm going and asking my 14-year-old daughter some wisdom or asking an Arab taxi driver wisdom, so it reflects badly on me, right? But that's a person who's holding a certain level of gaiva. But when a person is a true chacham, i.e., your chachma makes you realize how little you know, then you're going to ask anybody because you're not misbayish, because you're always in a situation, you're always in a matzah of not knowing. That's the wisdom. So this is our second push, our second gorim, which can lead us to be chacham chacham halom mikol adam. I am going to learn from every person because I'm hungry. I'm going to learn for every person because it's no skin off my back to say I don't know because I never know. And all that I know is always bring me to a deeper sense of I don't know. And since I don't know, it's no big deal for me to say this guy I don't know. Let's go the other way. All I am is living in how much I know and how smart I am and living in that world. I.e., listen carefully, I'm living in a very small world. Now, it is the world of me knowing a whole Masechta or knowing a whole Seder or Shas or whatever Chachma I'm involved in. And I know it very well. And I live in the idea of that. And therefore, in that, I know so much more than the next guy. And that's what's important. So why would I go and ask someone else something? Then you're not an emes Chachma. Then that's not real Chachma. Because you don't understand there's so much more to know. Your Chacham is mugbal. Your chachma, your wisdom is defined, and better than defined, friends, it's confined to the smallness of your mind. It's defined and confined to the smallness of your mind, your experience. And in the smallness of your mind and your experience, you know it all, which is probably not true anyway, but let's grant you that you know that. But man, there's so much more to know. What about that? So this is a whole different way to work. So I think it's an awesome idea. Very moving. It's brought up. Where is this brought? I have a book, Seches Avos, from the Bali Musar. And it says, what I don't like about it is because it doesn't tell you exactly where it's from. I don't know why. I don't know why they do that. I really don't know why they do that. I don't like it. It's a wonderful book because it's bringing down from them. But I see page after page, they just say, this is a Yerucham, this is this. So I open this up. We'll be bringing Bezrat Hashem other things from here. We got here, they bring the Rabbein Yonah itself. And then but it's called Das Canaan. Mibali Mori Orisa Musar, Rabbi Stroll, Yitzchak Blazer, Simchas Zichron Count. So it's a wonderful, wonderful sefer. My wife got it from me a while ago, and I'd love to learn the whole thing. I think it would be a big toelis to learn the whole thing, but especially now. So I said I got to look this up, and he has a few more in Yanim. Yeah, so that's how to become friends. So now, so what do we do? So now I could say, now how do we work with this idea, right? That's now it's Schoonmaker's job. Well, how do we work with this idea? So you say like it's kind of like either you got it, or you don't got it, right? If you're a big chacham, so if you're a big chacham, then you think to yourself, you have to remember, as much as I know, don't get stuck in what you know. Think about what you don't. Not in a depressive way, we'll say, right? I'm Mr. Simcha Sasson, Baruch Hashem. We know you have a lot of joy in what you know. That's not. We're not talking about that. Let's take care of that for a second, right? Joy, wow, Baruch Hashem, everything I know is Gavaldic. Every idea I know, take joy in it. It's amazing. It's amazing. It's amazing how much we know in Chachma. It's amazing how much you know about Hanukkah. It's amazing all the things we've learned, right? And you have to take a lot of simcha and joy. I just spoke about that today in the yeshiva. I spoke about my sefer Baruch Hashem. You have to be very, 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 very happy and make a chiddush. Everything is a chiddush. And that's how you're going to remember your learning. M2C2U, Gavaldi, you know things. That's great. That's not a steer to this. That's living in the sussing of the joy of every piece of Torah is so valuable. But now hafuch. Now you know how Gavaldi it is, how valuable it is. I want more and more and more and more of it. And I know there's so much more. That shouldn't hurt our joy. Okay, I know it feels a little bit like a steer, but it's not really a steer. And that's certainly not the purpose of what I'm coming to say is don't take joy. But I think it's difficult for us. Listen carefully. I think I have a good Kabbalah for us. I'm looking forward to getting to myself. I think it's difficult for us, and we're talking to many different people here. I don't know if we consider ourselves big chacham or not big chachamim, right? But if you are a big chacham, so the point is to remember that there's still so much more to know. But some of us probably don't consider themselves such big chacham anyway. So what does it mean to highlight that we don't know? So I thought like this. I thought maybe like once or twice a day, highlight for self something you don't know. They can say, "What do you mean, like Rabbi? That's what I'll tell. I don't know anything. I'm just struggling to know whatever the semi daf yomi or I'm a lady." So I think this is a good way to think about it. We have to get into this feeling of I don't know. So I think a good way to work on it. I'm always trying to find the place of a meeting, right? These high ideas where we live. So I think maybe a good place is to think to yourself, run into the things that you should know and you still don't know. You understand? Just say I don't know. So like, okay, good, Rabbi. Today I thought about the fact that I don't know Kabbalah. Good. And tomorrow I thought about the fact that I don't like Mishnah. The next day I thought about the fact that I don't know Yerushalmi. Good. What do you get from it? No, I think it's more powerful. We're all at a stage in our life where if we would have done X or Y a little bit different, we probably would know a little bit more. I know that's true for me. I'll give you an example. It's not such a flattering example for myself, but I'm speaking amongst friends. And if I don't speak honestly with you, what's it worth, right? I, for years, never really learned Nach. No, there were good reasons for it. I'm busy. I learn other things. Baruch Hashem, I definitely learn. I don't consider myself a non-learner. I'm a learner, definitely. And I'm even proud of myself as a Rosh Yeshiva that I learned. Some Rosh Yeshivas, not in my yeshiva, Baruch Hashem, but some Rosh Yeshivas kind of like go easy on the learning and they just kind of focus on the yeshiva. And I thank God I never fell into that trap, certainly not for a long time. And I always am trying to keep going forward in my own learning. And I am proud of that. Siyat D'Shmaya for sure, help my wife. But it's not always simple, and it's just someone could just learn what they learned for the yeshiva. But I'm not like that, so I'm happy. But here's the big but. It's inexcusable to me that I never really sat down and learned Nach in a better way. When I look like, why not learn a parak or two a month or something? I don't really have such a good answer. So that's, and I really actually made a tikkun over L. I started learning, deeply into Yeshua, but at a very, very slow pace but see, so now when I see Yeshua, so now it's like this. When I see Kabbalah, it's like, I don't know left or right in Kabbalah. Like, why don't I learn Zohar? I'm not bothered by that question, right? But why don't I know Yeshua? That bothers me, right? Now, that's a good bother, right? That's a good bother. So what I'm looking for, friends, is to build up in our this sense again. Our tachlis is to be the chacham of Roas and Olad, but the of chacham of Lo Mimi Kol Adam. What the Alter of Kelm is teaching us is that to get to be a Lo Mimi Kol Adam, you have to have the sense of I don't know. Because when I feel like I don't know, so it's no big deal for me to ask anybody. Everybody get that's the movement. That's the maybe psychology. That's the avoda. Since I don't know lots of things, so it's easy for me to learn from anybody. Why not? I don't know this, I don't know that. I don't know Nach. I don't know what this taxi driver has to teach me. So therefore, gets me over my gaiva. Yeah, gayus adam tashbilenu. And when you have that shiftless, that good shiftless, that good lowness, you'll ask. So we want to get to that sense of like a healthy. I don't know. Let's learn. Yeah, you got it. I'm not an expert. Hell yeah, I don't know. So could be. It might be. Yeah, it might be. It might be the omega of that. It might be the omega of that. I stopped myself from saying that, but it might be. So good, Rabosai. So you get it. So therefore, I was thinking. I was thinking everybody who's listening, there's something that you don't know that you should know by the stage you're in your life, and everybody can think of it. It might be simple things. It might be you never learned Chumash Rashi well, or it might be you don't know the basics of Nach, or it might be Something else. I don't know. Think I'll, I don't know what people don't know, but think about like every day. Try to like every day for the next week. Next week, by the way, we'll be probably off on Sunday, but there'll be a Avodas Hashem on Monday. I'll send it out every day. Try to come in contact with a little bit with something you don't know. What does mean come in contact with? I mean, spend some time like thinking about that. Just like right now, like when I think about the fact that it leaves a bittersweet taste to me. Like how come? Why now? I'm 56 and I've done some things and I'm only now learning Shu and I have to learn at such a slow pace. Like by the time I get to Divrei Yamim, Hashem should keep me healthy till then. But like, okay, this is best. But so that sense of I don't know, a good I don't know is healthy, and that's going to lead us to learn from other people. Good. So one last time. So what I'm trying to do, and I'm trying to engender in ourselves a healthy I don't know. And to say just I don't know Kabbalah, that's meaningless to us because there's no reason you would need Kabbalah. So my stroke of my insight here is to think about things you should know. And when there are things you should know and you don't know, that hopefully will bring us a feeling of like, whoa, I don't know. And I got to keep learning. I'm lacking. And if I don't get on my game, I'm going to be lacking. I better learn from wherever I can learn so I know more things. Yes, question?
How is this not going to lead to Yeush? I mean,
Because it shouldn't. It shouldn't lead to Yesh. It shouldn't lead to Yesh. Because that guys, I want to say clearly, I'm happy with that question. If this is going to be me, I don't have that problem so much. Not because I'm a wrestler, because I'm just not a Yesh oriented person. We're not talking about Yesh. We're talking about a sense like we want to build in ourselves a solid sense of I am hungry to learn more. That's the point, right? It's not so that where do I take it? I saw a great line like guilt and shame. I don't some people machalik between guilt and shame. Like guilt is like when you run off the side of the road and you run into those bumps, That's good because it focuses you back on the right way. And shame is when you just like you go off the road. So I'm not trying to put anybody down. I'm not trying to put myself down. Point is, I want to build in myself a feeling of I'm hungry for knowledge. That's what it's about. That's what it's about. If you're a man or you're a woman, women are. I was just reading about Maria David. She was hungry for knowledge. Not every woman is. Not every man is. But each person, Basher who, that's what we're trying to learn, right? If you're a Talmud Chacham or if you're a working person, you can be hungry for knowledge. When you're hungry for knowledge, you're going to go a lot forward. Further knowledge. There's no question about that, right? If you're Lomi Kol Adam, there are going to be opportunities already. You're going to ask your daughter for wisdom. You're going to ask the person that you're thinking with, but you have to be hungry for knowledge. So that's the point. How does this not take us to Yesh? Because the way we're taking it is, I don't know. I am hungry. Not I don't know I'm a nothing. Not I don't know I'm a failure. I don't know. I got to be hungry. Okay, are you here? I don't know Nach. I better get on my game. I don't know Yeshua. I better find times. I don't know Yeshua. I want to learn. So I want to. Okay, that's the point. Okay, but no one should get to Yesh. That's not my tachlis. It's useless. It doesn't help you. It doesn't help you. It's useless. It's usher. Don't. We're not trying to get to Yesh. It's that the feeling of I don't know is gonna propel us towards wanting to know. Okay, that's the point. But we have to feel a little bit like we don't know. That's what the insight from the altar. If you don't have any sense, if you think you're a chacham shalom, there's nothing to know. So there's a person's hungry for wisdom. It's like another way, kind of, to get to what the. I'm not scared of asking because I'm in a healthy state of I don't know. So it's two things. I'm in a healthy state of I don't know, and therefore I'm happy to ask other people. I'm in a healthy state of I don't know, and therefore I want to know. Okay, let's work on it. We'll see. And I'll share something on Monday. All the best. Shalom.